Yes.
That's crazy.
Sean Cunningham with us today. Looking at the Kings. Now, you say, Sean, and I know you're very well sourced on all this, you don't think the Kings are necessarily giving up on this season. Let's say that at some point, if they're not there now, that they're looking at, how do we end up in prime drafting position? If they wanted to do that, again, maybe they don't right now. Maybe they never will. But if they did, it's going to be really hard because you have to be one of the bottom three teams to have a 14% chance at the first pick, right? Yeah, and we all look at the Kings right now and say, oh, my goodness, this is awful. They're 3-11. They're playing at a 2-14 pace, but New Orleans is worse at 2-11. I saw them last night. They're just terrible, especially without Zion. The Pacers, of course, they have injury issues. They're 1-12. The Nets are 2-11, and the Wizards are 1-12.
But of all that grouping, is there anyone there you're surprised by?
No, but
Right.
I'm just saying, if you think, oh, we'll take and we'll get one of the top three spots, maybe you won't.
Right. I mean, the lottery is no. I mean, they've the ping pong balls haven't gone their way. I mean, there's no exact science to it. I've never been a tanking person myself. I also feel like you have to be set up to fail that way. Like if you look at Brooklyn, for example, like they've got a youth movement going. They're building for something. They have a young head coach that has the stability of the organization. He was compensated well to be able to bring them through this dark period while they accumulate all this young talent and see what comes out the other way. The Kings aren't that. The Kings have veterans everywhere, old veterans at that, in a young man's league, and they for whatever reason. I'll always say, look, the object for Monty McNair was not to pair DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine together. That was a byproduct of trying to get something for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah,
and it's now gone this long into it.
Still should have been a deal breaker, but I understand your point.
Right, yeah, and then there's the argument, should you have traded, whatever, but putting that aside, like they just are what they are, and that's why I think it's so hard for fans to hear Doug Christie say the right thing and say the identity of this team is being X, Y, and Z, and that clearly doesn't come out in what you watch on tape. And so you can want your identity to be one thing, but the reality is your identity is something completely different in the now. And as athletes, this is where that juxtaposition is so funny, because we talk about, you look at their schedule. The schedule's brutal, right? They're all living in the moment. One game, right? It's one game to the next, day to day. But yet he's looking at it in a grand big picture, and we're trying to say, no, you are this because this is your day to day. You may want this down the road. Maybe next year you have, or even 6 months from now, you've created something that is more equal to the identity that you've desired. But in the day to day right now, it is not that. And I think that's what strikes such a chord with some of these players and their frustrations, because they're hearing their coach say something is not what they're necessarily built for.
I think it also strikes a chord with a lot of fans, and I think they are making judgments on this that are not accurate, but I understand it. Don't you think, Jay, Sean Cunningham, coach says, look, we're trying to establish our identity. You watch it as a fan, you go, they're nothing like that. So one conclusion is he doesn't know what he's doing or what he's talking about. That is not what's going on, but I could see how as a fan you would look at that and go, they're the polar opposite of what he wants them to be. Maybe he doesn't know what he's doing, but it's just he's got to ride this out with this roster as they figure out where they're going to take it.
Yeah, it is. I'll say this, Sean, one of the things that we've had a conversation about, and maybe when I say we, me and Whitey, but a lot of what I've always completely said, and it goes back to trade, it goes back to De'Aaron, it goes back to, many different episodes and situations for the Kings. I think there's just a lack of continuity, meaning everyone has to come out and say it. If Coach Christie is saying it, and of course you're putting the message or spreading the message through Coach Christie, but at the same time, front office has got to come out and say, and we understand the 6 core principles of Scott Perry at this point. It's like a study guide at this point. I feel like at the end of the season, there's going to be a quiz, because you got to know these 6 core principles of what the Kings are trying to do. But you're talking about it. You're saying the great things. You're saying good things. We hear Coach Christie saying that. But as you say, the play doesn't equal the same conversation. So what I'm saying is maybe you come out together with some continuity, and then we won't have to second guess Scott Perry, because I do believe people are second guessing what Scott Perry is talking about, even though he's fresh and new here, which is the same thing that I think we're getting with Doug Christie is we hear what you guys are saying, but we see something different. I think maybe if you come out together, might be a little different.
Yeah, well said. I mean, I the only thing I'd add to that too is I think, from a player standpoint and talking to people before, it's like he's you're trying to set a tone or a culture, and whatever that is, like however you want to phrase it, like you're trying to set a tone. And as one player put it to me, they're trying to instill a philosophy that exists for an ideal, and we are not that ideal. And so how do you change how you coach? Do you always coach to that expectation of being, this is what we want, when not recognizing the reality of what you are, setting an example for young guys? And like, let's be honest. I mean, I know so many people are talking about, oh, let's see what the young guys can do, all that. The little caveat there too is like, you outside of Nick Clifford and Devin Carter, where's your like first round pick? You know what I mean? Like, should you be trying to see what your second round pick or undrafted guy can do? You know, like you have a team that's built for a reason. And yes, you'd like to see some of these young guys flourish, but the reality is, ain't none of these young guys may be here a year from now. So right. I wouldn't want anybody to, outside of Keegan Murray, who has a contract with this organization that they've committed to him. I mean, they can still move him later this year, but the reality is, this team is so bad, there ain't no untouchables on this team.
Where do you think they are? What's your best guess? Maybe you know more than a guess with Keon. I'll tell you my assumption, and perhaps I haven't been correct. My assumption is they like Keon. He does fit what they want to do, big picture, with the foundation and the principles. And they haven't been playing him as much because they know that. And I know you already said you don't think they're showcasing people. That's my guess. But obviously, we don't know what they're going to do given his contract status. Where do you think they are with Keon?
I think with not seeing Keon at certain points of the season, they want to see a certain group together and what those numbers bear out, and really be able to point to something tangible to say, y'all suck. and we're not bringing him in here to save your play. That's why I'm a guy who just despises plus minus, because it's not indicative of you as a player. It's
right.
indicative of you as who you play with.
Right.
But all analytics, all numbers, they're helpful, right?
That's actually true of offensive rating too.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So to that point, they already know what Keon Ellis is.
Yeah.
And so like, I would disagree with the way maybe that kind of played out, but because it's eerily familiar to what some of the things Mike Brown had done last year, and that didn't go well, and ultimately it led to his demise. It's one of the several ingredients that kind of factored into him not being here anymore. But to the larger point, I don't think this organization looks at Keon Ellis as irreplaceable. But in the now, as we talked about, like, he does things, 3-and-D is at a premium in this league. But on this team, it's the white whale. So right. He's got to play.
So you think they value him? It's
Absolutely.
funny. That's a great point. Mike Brown didn't play him. Doug Christie isn't playing him, but for almost totally opposite reasons in a way.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons. Like last year, I remember kind of looking at the way this team was built, and I hate being the guy that always goes, let's go way deep into the roster. Well, if this guy only had a little bit more playing time, well, maybe this would be whatever. Fans tend to do that.
Yes.
And I felt myself doing that with Isaac Jones, because I'm looking around going, none of you guys can do what this dude does. And I'm not saying it was going to equate to winning, but certainly he went from being a undrafted two-way player to all of a sudden showing the fact that he can provide length and athleticism, a give a damn, something that's just so hard to find on this team. And then you find this once they up him to a regular contract, they're also looking at it, man, if he could just stretch the floor. And what do we see in the summer league, which I don't take anything from, but at least he was building to something.
He was working on that last year in the G League too.
And then to bring in somebody like, Russell Westbrook, Precious Achiuwa, I understand Precious Achiuwa only a year older, more physical, a lot bulkier, stronger, we get it. But to come at the sacrifice of Isaac Jones and maybe not some of the back-end players where money is more guaranteed, it's those tough business moves, but it's hard as a fan to look at that and go, man, they were building for something there. Not that Isaac Jones is some future star, but certainly played a type of role. And to Doug's credit, he wouldn't touch Isaac Jones last year, and he didn't touch him this year. For whatever reason, that coach just didn't go to that player.
What's the deal with Doug McDermott?
Guaranteed contract, who can shoot,
Why?
good hair,
I know
gray
he
hair,
can shoot.
Creighton legend.
I have nothing against him, but why do they commit to this guy that they never play?
There was probably nobody more surprised in the city than me when I saw that they brought him back and gave him guaranteed money. But it shows you that shooting is at a premium.
Yeah,
and
not if it's sitting on the bench though.
Right. Well, yeah. I just think you need a pro, and they love Doug, so.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't have anything against him, and he does some nice things, but he hardly ever plays, and I don't understand why they would make the commitment to him when you have so many questions about other people on the roster and you need to get younger. But it's a puzzle, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. And it's when you factor in money and all those kind of things, it's like it's got to be really it's got to be so hard. Baseball has all these different levels of professional baseball under your organization in the minor leagues, and you have to keep all that in mind. Basketball seems like it's so much more simpler. It's just, are you going to go into your luxury tax and your aprons, or are you not? And if you're trying to stay under that to maintain your flexibility, tough decisions have to be made. And I still scratch my head about Domantas Sabonis being on this team. He's a very hard player to build around. And for the longest time, you needed length and athleticism, and you couldn't find it.
Right.
And then you get Jonas Valanciunas, which is a starting level caliber center, and then he's gone.
So you can bring in another guard.
Or even Dario Saric, that. I get it. It's a little bit more cap flexibility, but yeah, those are tough things for fans to swallow.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out, but coming